I was standing in my kitchen at 5 a.m. on Christmas morning, basting the 20-pound turkey that had been roasting since midnight, when I heard my sister Jessica's car pull into my driveway. Through the window, I watched her emerge from her BMW wearing designer pajamas and carrying nothing but a Starbucks coffee and her phone. "Morning, Megan," she called cheerfully as she let herself in through my back door. "Smells amazing in here. You've really outdone yourself this year." I looked at Jessica, perfectly made up despite the early hour, manicured nails holding her phone as she immediately began taking Instagram photos of my kitchen, and felt the familiar mixture of love and resentment that had defined our relationship for 34 years. For the past 6 years, since Mom and Dad had gotten too old to host the extended family Christmas gathering, I had taken over the responsibility. Every year, I spent weeks planning, days shopping, and hours cooking to create the magical family Christmas that our parents cherished. And every year, Jessica showed up empty-handed, perfectly dressed, and somehow managed to become the center of attention while I spent the day running between the kitchen and the dining room. "Jess, could you help me get the breakfast casseroles out of the other oven?" I asked, wiping sweat from my forehead with a dish towel. "Oh, I just got my nails done yesterday," Jessica said, holding up her hands to show off her fresh manicure. "I don't want to risk chipping them before all the family photos. You know how Mom loves those Christmas pictures." I bit back my response and pulled the casseroles out myself, adding them to the breakfast spread that included homemade cinnamon rolls, fresh fruit salad, bacon, sausage, and the special coffee cake recipe our grandmother had passed down to me. "This looks incredible, Meg," Jessica said, immediately taking more photos. "I'm definitely posting this. My followers are going to be so jealous of our family traditions." Our family traditions. The traditions I had single-handedly maintained and expanded, while Jessica contributed nothing but her presence and social media documentation. By 8 a.m., the house was filled with the sounds and smells of Christmas morning. I had 17 family members arriving throughout the day: parents, aunts, uncles, cousins, and their children. The menu I'd planned included the turkey, honey-glazed ham, 3 different potato dishes, green bean casserole, stuffing, cranberry sauce, homemade rolls, and 4 different desserts. I'd been preparing for weeks, making lists, shopping at 3 different stores to get everything perfect, and spending my entire Christmas Eve in the kitchen doing prep work. My dining room table, extended with 2 additional leaves, was set with our grandmother's china and crystal, polished to perfection. "Megan, honey, this is absolutely beautiful," my mother said when she and Dad arrived at 10 a.m. "You've created such a wonderful Christmas atmosphere." "Thanks, Mom. I wanted everything to be special." "It is special. Jessica, come look at how beautifully your sister has decorated the dining room." Jessica glanced up from her phone, where she was editing photos of herself in front of my Christmas tree. "Oh yeah, it looks great. Very traditional." The way she said traditional made it sound like a criticism rather than a compliment, but Mom didn't seem to notice. As the day progressed, I found myself in a familiar pattern: cooking, serving, cleaning, while Jessica entertained family members with stories about her latest promotion at the marketing firm, her new apartment downtown, and her recent vacation to Mexico. "Jessica's doing so well for herself," I heard my Aunt Carol tell my mother. "It's wonderful to see young women succeeding in competitive careers." I was in the kitchen, carving the turkey and plating everything for the dinner service, when I heard the conversation continue. "And she's still so thoughtful about family," Mom replied. "Jessica was just telling me about how she organized this whole Christmas celebration for everyone." I stopped carving and listened more carefully. "Really? I thought Megan was hosting?" Aunt Carol said. "Well, yes, technically it's at Megan's house," Mom explained, "but Jessica coordinated everything. She's the one who reached out to everyone to make sure they could come, and she planned all the details. Megan just does the cooking. Just does the cooking. 6 years of planning, organizing, decorating, and executing every aspect of our family Christmas. And in my mother's mind, I just did the cooking, while Jessica got credit for coordination she'd never done." I took a deep breath and continued carving the turkey, telling myself that it didn't matter who got credit as long as the family was together and happy. But the resentment was building like pressure in a kettle. Dinner was a success, as always. The turkey was perfectly moist, the sides were delicious, and the desserts received enthusiastic praise from everyone. I barely sat down during the meal, constantly jumping up to refill serving dishes, bring additional items from the kitchen, and ensure everyone had everything they needed. Jessica, meanwhile, held court at the other end of the table, regaling everyone with amusing anecdotes and charming observations. She looked relaxed and radiant, playing the perfect hostess role while I played the invisible kitchen staff. After dinner, as I loaded the dishwasher for the 3rd time that day, I overheard my father talking to my Uncle Jim. "This was another wonderful Christmas," Dad said. "Jessica really has a gift for bringing the family together." She certainly does, Uncle Jim agreed. And the meal was exceptional. Did Jessica do all the cooking herself? Well, Megan helped with some of the preparation, Dad replied. But Jessica organized everything and made sure it all came together perfectly. I felt something break inside me. 6 years of hosting Christmas, 6 years of weeks of preparation and days of cooking, and my own father was giving Jessica credit for organizing everything, while I was reduced to someone who helped with preparation. At 6 p.m., as the last family members were preparing to leave, Mom gathered everyone in the living room for what she called a special announcement. Dad and I wanted to thank Jessica for another incredible Christmas celebration. Mom began, pulling an envelope from her purse. Your effort and dedication to keeping our family traditions alive means everything to us. My heart stopped as I realized what was happening. So, we've booked you a 7-day Caribbean cruise as a thank you for all the work you put into making Christmas special for everyone. The room erupted in congratulations and excitement as Jessica opened the envelope containing cruise tickets, hotel vouchers, and spending money. She squealed with delight, hugged Mom and Dad, and immediately began talking about how much she needed a vacation after all the stress of planning such a big family gathering. I stood in the doorway between the kitchen and living room, wearing the same apron I'd had on since 5 a.m., watching my parents reward my sister with a luxury vacation for work she'd never done while I, the person who had actually planned, prepared, and executed every aspect of the Christmas celebration, received nothing but the mess to clean up. Megan, come congratulate your sister, Mom called, gesturing for me to join the celebration. I walked into the living room with what I hoped was a convincing smile and hugged Jessica, who was practically glowing with excitement about her unexpected cruise. I can't believe you planned all this and they surprised you with a cruise, I said, testing whether she would correct the misunderstanding. I know, right? I mean, I did work really hard to make sure everything was perfect for everyone, Jessica replied without a hint of irony. I deserve this vacation. She believed it. After contributing nothing but her presence and some Instagram photos, Jessica genuinely believed she deserved credit for my work and a luxury vacation as a reward. As the family finally departed and I was left alone with mountains of dishes, leftover food to store, and a house to restore to normal, I realized that something fundamental had shifted in my relationship with my family. For 6 years, I had enabled this dynamic, telling myself that it didn't matter who got credit as long as everyone was happy. But watching my parents give Jessica a Caribbean cruise for my work while treating me like hired help in my own home had revealed a truth I could no longer ignore. My family didn't just fail to appreciate my efforts, they literally couldn't see them. In their minds, I was the background support staff while Jessica was the star of the show. But they had made one crucial mistake in their assessment of our family dynamics. They assumed that my willingness to do the work meant I didn't deserve the credit. They assumed that my quiet competence meant I didn't need recognition or reward. They were wrong, and they were about to discover just how wrong they were. The day after Christmas, I woke up in my still-decorated house surrounded by evidence of the celebration that everyone credited to Jessica. Empty serving dishes filled my counters, the dining room table was covered with used tablecloths and scattered Christmas crackers, and my kitchen looked like a catering operation had exploded in it. I was loading the last batch of dishes into the dishwasher when my phone buzzed with a notification. Jessica had posted a carousel of photos from her Christmas celebration on Instagram, with captions that made my blood boil. So grateful I could bring our family together for another magical Christmas. Planning events like this is exhausting, but so worth it when you see everyone's smiles. Family first, Irish Christmas, traditions, blessed. The photos showed my perfectly set dining table, my homemade food presentations, and my carefully arranged holiday decorations, all presented as Jessica's creative accomplishments. The comments from her friends were full of praise for her hosting skills and amazing cooking abilities. But it was the final photo that broke something inside me. A picture of Jessica holding the cruise tickets with the caption, "When your family appreciates all your hard work with the perfect surprise. 7 days in the Caribbean because I deserve it after coordinating such a beautiful celebration." Sometimes being the family organizer pays off. Family love, chalk to cruise bound, chalk hard work pays off. 537 likes and dozens of comments praising Jessica for her incredible dedication to family and congratulating her on earning such a wonderful reward. I screenshot every single post. That afternoon, my mother called to thank me for helping Jessica make Christmas so special. "Mom, I need to clarify something," I said, trying to keep my voice level. "I didn't help Jessica with Christmas. I planned, prepared, cooked, and hosted the entire celebration. Jessica showed up empty-handed and left early." "Oh, honey, I know you did a lot of the cooking, but Jessica was the one who coordinated everything with the family and made sure all the details came together." "What details did Jessica coordinate?" Well, she made sure everyone knew when to arrive and she planned the whole event. Mom, I sent all the invitations. I planned the menu, bought all the groceries, decorated the house, and cooked everything from scratch. Jessica didn't coordinate anything except her own attendance. There was a long pause before Mom responded. Megan, I think you might be forgetting how much work Jessica put into organizing this year's celebration. She's been talking about it for weeks. The gaslighting was so complete and confident that I almost doubted my own memory. Almost. What specifically did Jessica do to organize Christmas? She made sure it was going to be special for everyone. She put a lot of thought into making sure the family would enjoy themselves. I realized that my mother literally couldn't articulate what Jessica had contributed because Jessica hadn't contributed anything, but the narrative that Jessica was the family event coordinator was so firmly established that my actual work had become invisible. Mom, I'm going to send you some photos that might help clarify the situation. Over the next hour, I compiled a comprehensive documentation of my Christmas preparation, receipts from grocery shopping trips totaling over $400, time-stamped photos of me cooking throughout Christmas Eve and Christmas morning, screenshots of the group text thread where I had coordinated with family members about dietary restrictions and arrival times, and photos of Jessica arriving empty-handed Christmas morning. I sent everything to Mom with a message. This is the actual documentation of who planned and executed Christmas. I'd appreciate it if you could review this evidence before continuing to give Jessica credit for my work. Mom's response came 2 hours later. Megan, I don't understand why you're being so competitive about this. Christmas should be about family, not about who gets credit for what. Jessica works very hard at her career, and she deserves recognition for her efforts with the family. The response was so tone-deaf and dismissive that I had to read it 3 times to believe my own mother had written it. Not only was she refusing to acknowledge the evidence I'd provided, but she was framing my desire for accurate recognition as competitive behavior that went against the Christmas spirit. That evening, Jessica called me with excitement bubbling in her voice. Meg, I can't thank you enough for all your help with Christmas yesterday. The cooking was absolutely incredible, and everything looked so beautiful. Jessica, I didn't help with Christmas. I planned and executed the entire celebration. Well, of course you did most of the cooking. You're so good at that stuff. But I handled all the coordination and planning that made it possible. What coordination did you handle? I made sure everyone was excited about coming. I coordinated the timing. I planned the overall experience. You know, the big picture stuff that makes events successful. I felt like I was in an alternate reality where facts didn't matter and perception was the only truth. Jessica, I have receipts, photos, and message threads that document everything I did to plan Christmas. What evidence do you have of your coordination efforts? Megan, why are you being so weird about this? We worked together to make Christmas special, and now you're acting like I didn't contribute anything. Because you didn't contribute anything. You showed up empty-handed, took photos for social media, and left early while I cleaned up. That's not fair. I contributed by being there and making sure everyone had a good time. Not everything valuable is quantifiable, Meg. The conversation ended with Jessica hanging up, apparently offended that I had accurately described her non-contribution to the event she was now claiming credit for online. 2 days later, my phone rang with a call from my Aunt Carol. Megan, I wanted to thank you for such a wonderful Christmas celebration. The food was absolutely incredible, and your attention to detail made everything perfect. Thank you, Aunt Carol. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I have to ask, I've been seeing Jessica's social media posts about planning the whole event, but I was there and I saw you doing all the work. What's going on with that? Finally, someone who had actually paid attention to reality. Jessica didn't plan or coordinate anything, Aunt Carol. She showed up Christmas morning, took photos, and left, but somehow she's convinced Mom and Dad that she organized everything. That's what I thought. I was confused when your mother kept talking about Jessica's coordination efforts, because I watched you running around all day taking care of everyone while Jessica entertained people. It's been going on for years, but this year with the cruise reward for her efforts, I finally realized how completely invisible my actual work has become. Megan, that's absolutely wrong. You should be the one getting rewarded for creating such beautiful family celebrations. Aunt Carol's validation meant everything because it confirmed that I wasn't going crazy. There was at least one family member who could see through the distorted narrative that had developed around Jessica's supposed contributions. Aunt Carol, can I ask you something? Have you noticed this pattern in other family situations? Oh, honey, it's been going on since you girls were children. Jessica has always been the family star while you've been the one actually doing the work behind the scenes. Why do you think Mom and Dad can't see it? Because Jessica is charismatic and knows how to manage perceptions, while you're competent and don't demand recognition for your contributions. They've gotten used to taking your work for granted while celebrating Jessica's minimal efforts. That conversation crystallized something important for me. This wasn't just about Christmas. This was about a lifetime pattern of Jessica receiving credit and rewards for my work, while I remained invisible in my own family. Aunt Carol, I'm thinking about making some changes to how I handle family events going forward. What kind of changes? The kind that make it very clear who actually does the work and who just shows up for the credit. Well, it's about time someone held Jessica accountable for taking credit she doesn't deserve. As I hung up the phone, I felt the pieces of my plan beginning to form. Jessica had built her family reputation on my invisible labor, and my parents had enabled this dynamic for so long that they literally couldn't see my contributions anymore. But I was about to make my work very visible by making it disappear entirely. If Jessica wanted credit for family event coordination, she was about to get the opportunity to prove her abilities without my invisible support system. And my family was about to discover exactly what they had been taking for granted all these years. 3 weeks after Christmas, I was having coffee with my best friend Rachel when she brought up Jessica's social media posts about the cruise she was taking, the cruise my parents had given her as a reward for my work. Megan, I have to ask, did Jessica really plan your family's Christmas celebration? Because I've been following her Instagram stories about this well-deserved vacation, and I'm confused about what she actually did to earn it. Rachel had attended 2 of my Christmas celebrations over the years and had witnessed firsthand the amount of work I put into creating them. She'd also seen Jessica's minimal contributions and attention-seeking behavior. Jessica didn't plan anything, Rachel. She showed up Christmas morning empty-handed, took photos for social media, and somehow convinced my parents that she coordinated everything. That's insane. I've seen you spend weeks preparing for Christmas. How did your parents end up thinking Jessica was responsible? Because Jessica knows how to manage perceptions and take credit, while I just focused on doing the work. It never occurred to me that I needed to document and promote my contributions to get recognition for them. Rachel leaned forward with the expression she wore when she was developing a marketing strategy for her consulting firm. Megan, you realize this is a classic case of someone taking credit for work they didn't do, right? In the corporate world, this would be grounds for serious consequences. But this is family, not business. The principles are the same. Jessica has built her reputation on your labor, and your parents have been enablers because they benefit from the outcome without having to examine who's actually creating it. Rachel pulled out her phone and showed me Jessica's latest Instagram post, a photo of her on the cruise ship's deck with a cocktail, captioned, "Sometimes you just need to get away after months of family event planning. This cruise is exactly what I needed after coordinating such a successful Christmas celebration. Earned it in family coordinator to cruise life." Look at this, Megan. She's literally building her personal brand around work you did. This isn't just about family dynamics. Jessica is using your labor to enhance her social media presence and professional reputation. I hadn't considered that angle, but Rachel was right. Jessica's Instagram persona as a successful professional who also excelled at family coordination was built entirely on accomplishments that were actually mine. What do you think I should do? You need to create a situation where Jessica has to prove her supposed coordination abilities without your invisible support. Let her take full responsibility for the next family event and see what happens. You mean stop hosting? I mean step back completely and let Jessica handle everything she claims to be so good at. Your family thinks she's the event coordinator? Perfect. Let her coordinate. The idea was both terrifying and appealing. Terrifying because I knew Jessica would fail spectacularly, potentially ruining important family gatherings. Appealing because it would finally expose the truth about our respective contributions. Rachel, what if she actually manages to pull it off? Then you'll know that your family's perception was accurate, and you can adjust accordingly. But based on everything you've told me about Jessica's actual contributions over the years, I don't think you have much to worry about. That evening, I started planning what I privately called Operation Reality Check. The next major family gathering was Easter, which gave Jessica approximately 10 weeks to prove her event coordination abilities. I began by documenting everything that went into hosting a successful family celebration, not just the cooking, but the comprehensive planning that started months in advance. The list was extensive: pre-event planning, 6 to 8 weeks out; research menu options accommodating all dietary restrictions; create comprehensive shopping lists organized by store and timeline; coordinate with family members about attendance, travel plans, and special needs; plan table settings, decorations, and ambiance; schedule time off work for preparation days; research and test new recipes to ensure quality; advanced preparation, 2 to 4 weeks out; purchase non-perishable ingredients and supplies; confirm final headcount and dietary requirements; plan seating arrangements considering family dynamics; prepare make-ahead dishes that can be frozen; deep clean house and prepare guest spaces; purchase fresh flowers and decorative elements; final preparation, 1 week out; purchase all perishable ingredients; Prepare detailed cooking timeline for event day. Set up dining room and common areas. Prepare guest bathrooms and ensure adequate supplies. Confirm any special arrangements. High chairs, dietary accommodations. Begin prep cooking for complex dishes. Event day execution. Begin cooking at 4-5 a.m. for afternoon gatherings. Coordinate arrival times and parking arrangements. Manage cooking timeline to ensure everything is ready simultaneously. Set up beverage stations and appetizer service. Handle all serving, refilling, and cleanup during the meal. Coordinate post-meal activities and manage departure logistics. The documentation was 23 pages long and represented a project management effort that Jessica had never acknowledged, much less attempted. But the most important part of my plan wasn't just stepping back. It was ensuring that Jessica couldn't rely on my invisible labor without explicitly asking for help, which would expose her lack of capabilities. I called my mother 3 days before Jessica returned from her cruise. "Mom, I wanted to let you know that I'm excited to see how Jessica handles Easter this year." "What do you mean?" "Well, since you and Dad recognized Jessica as the family event coordinator with the cruise reward, I assumed she'd be taking over the planning and hosting duties for future gatherings." "Oh, I hadn't really thought about that. I suppose we just assumed you'd continue hosting since you enjoy cooking so much." "Mom, I do enjoy cooking, but I think it's time for Jessica to have the opportunity to demonstrate the coordination skills you've recognized. She's certainly earned the chance to take full responsibility. But Jessica has never hosted a family gathering before. That's exactly why it's such a perfect opportunity for her to prove her abilities. You've acknowledged that she coordinated Christmas, so Easter should be well within her capabilities." I could hear the wheels turning in Mom's mind as she processed the logical implications of her own narrative about Jessica's contributions. "Maybe you could work together on Easter? Share the responsibilities?" "I think that would undermine Jessica's authority as the family coordinator. She deserves the chance to succeed independently, just like I did when I took over hosting 6 years ago." "Megan, are you sure about this? Easter is such an important family gathering. I'm completely confident in Jessica's abilities, Mom. After all, according to you and Dad, she coordinated our entire Christmas celebration. Easter should be much simpler." After hanging up, I felt the satisfaction of someone who had just laid a perfect trap. My mother couldn't argue against Jessica taking responsibility, without admitting that Jessica hadn't actually coordinated Christmas, and she couldn't insist that I continue hosting without acknowledging that I had been doing all the work all along. 2 days later, Jessica called me from the airport as she returned from her cruise. "Megan, I just talked to Mom about Easter, and she said something about me hosting. I think there might be some confusion." "No confusion, Jess. Since Mom and Dad recognized your event coordination skills with the cruise reward, I thought you'd want to take over hosting duties for family gatherings. But I've never hosted Easter before. I don't really know how to plan something like that. Jessica, you coordinated Christmas, which was much more complex than Easter. I'm sure you'll do great." But Christmas was different. I mean, you did all the cooking and setup. And you did all the coordination and planning, right? That's the hard part. The cooking is just following recipes." I could hear Jessica's panic through the phone as she realized she was being held accountable for abilities she'd claimed but didn't possess. "Megan, maybe we could work together, share the planning? I don't want to step on your toes as the family event coordinator. Besides, you deserve full credit for your efforts. What if I need help with some of the details?" "Of course, I'm happy to answer questions if you get stuck. But this is your chance to show everyone your coordination skills without my interference." As I hung up, I felt the cold satisfaction of someone who had just forced a fraud to prove their claims. Jessica had built her family reputation on my invisible labor, and now she was about to discover what it actually took to deliver the results she'd been claiming credit for. Easter was exactly 9 weeks away. Jessica had claimed expertise in family event coordination, received a luxury vacation as recognition for those skills, and built her social media brand around being a successful family organizer. Now she was going to have the opportunity to prove those claims without my invisible support system. And my family was about to discover exactly what they had been taking for granted for 6 years. 6 weeks before Easter, Jessica called me in a panic. "Megan, I need your help. I have no idea how to plan a family Easter gathering. Where do I even start?" I felt a moment of sympathy for my sister, followed immediately by memories of her confident smile as she accepted credit for my Christmas work and posed with cruise tickets on Instagram. "Jessica, you coordinated Christmas perfectly. Just use the same process you used then." "But I mean, Christmas was different. I had more time to plan. Actually, I start planning Christmas in October, so you had 3 months. Easter planning typically starts about 8 weeks out, so you're right on schedule." "What exactly am I supposed to plan?" The question revealed everything. Jessica literally didn't know what went into event planning because she'd never done it. She'd been claiming credit for work she'd never observed closely enough to understand. The same things you planned for Christmas: menu, shopping, prep schedule, setup, coordination with family members about dietary restrictions and attendance. Could you maybe send me a list of what needs to be done? I paused, considering my response. If I gave Jessica a detailed list, she might be able to execute a basic Easter gathering, which would allow her to continue claiming coordination abilities she didn't possess. But if I forced her to figure it out independently, her lack of capabilities would become undeniable. Jessica, I don't want to influence your creative process. You have your own style of event coordination, and I think you should trust your instincts. But I really don't know where to start. Just think about what made Christmas successful and apply those same principles to Easter. After hanging up, I felt slightly guilty about setting Jessica up for failure. But I reminded myself that she'd chosen to claim credit for work she'd never done. Now she had the opportunity to prove those claims were legitimate. 4 weeks before Easter, Mom called me with obvious concern in her voice. Megan, I'm getting worried about Jessica's Easter planning. She hasn't sent out any invitations yet. And when I asked her about the menu, she seemed very unsure. I'm sure she's got everything under control, Mom. Jessica is probably just managing things differently than I did. But Easter is only a month away, and I don't think she's made any concrete plans. Mom, you gave Jessica a cruise specifically because you recognized her event coordination abilities. I think you should trust those abilities now. Maybe you could offer to help her, share some of your experience? I don't want to undermine Jessica's authority as the family event coordinator. She needs to establish her own methods and processes. I could hear Mom's frustration, but I also knew that any suggestion that Jessica needed my help would contradict the narrative that had led to her cruise reward. 2 weeks before Easter, the family group text thread became a source of growing anxiety. Aunt Carol: Jessica, do you need us to bring anything specific for Easter? Also, what time should we arrive? Jessica: still finalizing details. I'll let everyone know soon. Uncle Jim: Jessica, my wife has some dietary restrictions. Should we discuss menu options? Jessica: working on the menu now. We'll send updates this week. Cousin Mark: hey Jessica, are we doing Easter at your place or Megan's? Need to coordinate travel. Jessica: still confirming location. We'll update everyone ASAP. The thread continued with family members asking increasingly concerned questions about basic logistics that should have been settled weeks earlier. Jessica's responses grew more evasive with each inquiry. 1 week before Easter, Jessica called me in complete panic. Megan, I need your help. I have no idea what I'm doing, and Easter is next Sunday. What specific areas do you need help with? Everything. I don't know what to cook. I haven't bought groceries. I haven't even confirmed if I can host at my apartment. Can you host at your apartment? No. My apartment is tiny, and I don't have serving dishes or enough seating for 17 people. So where are you planning to hold Easter? I don't know. I was hoping maybe you could host it again. I felt the moment of truth arriving. Jessica was finally admitting that she couldn't deliver the coordination services she'd been claiming credit for. Jessica, if I host Easter, plan the menu, do the shopping, and handle all the logistics, what exactly would your contribution be? I could help with setup and greeting people. So you'd be a guest who helps with light tasks while I do all the actual work? Megan, please, I'm desperate. I had no idea how much work went into planning these gatherings. But Jessica, you coordinated Christmas. Surely you remember the process you used then? The long silence on the phone confirmed what I already knew. Jessica had no memory of coordinating Christmas because she'd never done it. I think I may have overstated my involvement in Christmas planning, she finally admitted. What do you mean? I mean, maybe you did more of the actual coordination than I remembered. How much more? Another long pause. Maybe all of it? Finally, after 6 years of taking credit for my work, Jessica was admitting that she'd contributed nothing to the family celebrations she'd been claiming to coordinate. Jessica, if you couldn't coordinate Christmas and you can't coordinate Easter, why did you accept the cruise as a reward for event planning work you didn't do? I don't know. Mom and Dad seemed so proud of me, and I didn't want to disappoint them by correcting their understanding. So you let me be invisible in my own family while you took credit and rewards for my work? I never meant for it to go this far. I liked being seen as successful at something. 4 days before Easter, with no planning completed and family members increasingly concerned about the lack of communication, Mom called an emergency family meeting via conference call. We need to figure out Easter logistics immediately, Mom announced to the assembled family members on the call. Jessica, can you update everyone on your plans? Well, I'm still working on some of the details. Jessica, it's Wednesday. Easter is Sunday. What details are you still working on? Aunt Carol asked with obvious frustration. The location, the menu, the shopping. Most of the details, actually. The silence on the conference call was deafening. Jessica, what exactly have you planned for Easter? Uncle Jim asked. I've been thinking about it a lot. I have some ideas. Ideas aren't plans, Cousin Mark pointed out. Do we have a confirmed location? A confirmed menu? A shopping list? Cooking timeline? Not exactly. I listened to my family's growing realization that Jessica had done absolutely nothing to plan Easter, despite having 9 weeks and despite claiming expertise in event coordination. Megan, Mom said quietly, would you be willing to help Jessica with Easter planning? Mom, if I plan the menu, do the shopping, handle the logistics, and host the gathering, what exactly would Jessica be contributing? She could assist you. So Jessica would be assisting me with an event that I plan and execute, just like Christmas? The uncomfortable silence stretched across the conference call as family members processed the implications of what I was saying. Megan, what are you getting at? Dad asked. I'm asking why Jessica received a cruise as a reward for coordinating Christmas when she's clearly incapable of coordinating Easter. What changed between December and March that eliminated her supposed event planning abilities? Well, maybe Christmas was a special case, Mom started. Mom, either Jessica has event coordination skills or she doesn't. Either she coordinated Christmas or she didn't. You can't have it both ways. Aunt Carol jumped in with the directness that had made her my ally since Christmas. I think what Megan is pointing out is that Jessica is asking for help with things that someone who actually coordinated Christmas would already know how to do. Exactly, I said. Jessica claimed credit for Christmas coordination, received a luxury vacation as recognition for that work, and posted on social media about earning that reward through her planning efforts. Now she's admitting she can't plan Easter because she doesn't know how to do basic event coordination. So what actually happened at Christmas? Uncle Jim asked bluntly. I took a deep breath and delivered the truth that had been invisible to my family for 6 years. I planned Christmas starting in October. I researched menus, coordinated with family members about dietary restrictions and attendance, created shopping lists, bought all groceries, decorated my house, cooked everything from scratch, managed the event timeline, served everyone, and cleaned up afterward. Jessica arrived empty-handed Christmas morning, took photos for social media, and left early. Is that true, Jessica? Dad asked. I mean, I helped in other ways. What other ways? Aunt Carol pressed. I made sure everyone enjoyed themselves. By doing what specifically? I talked to people and made sure they felt included. So you were a guest, Uncle Jim said flatly. You were a guest who socialized while Megan did all the work. But I contributed to the overall success. Jessica tried weakly. Jessica, I interrupted. Can you name one specific task you completed for Christmas? One concrete action you took that contributed to the planning or execution of the event? The silence was devastating. Taking photos doesn't count as event coordination, Cousin Mark added. Neither does socializing with family members. I think I understand the situation now, Dad said slowly. Jessica, did you know that Mom and I gave you a cruise because we thought you had coordinated Christmas? Yes. And you accepted that reward knowing you hadn't actually done the coordination work? I didn't mean to mislead anyone. Jessica, you posted on Instagram about earning the cruise through your hard work coordinating the event, I said. That's not misleading. That's fraud. It's not fraud. What would you call accepting credit and rewards for work you didn't do? The family conference call had turned into an impromptu trial, with Jessica's claims finally being examined under scrutiny instead of accepted at face value. So, what happens with Easter? Aunt Carol asked pragmatically. That depends, I said. Are we going to continue pretending that Jessica has coordination abilities she clearly doesn't possess? Or are we going to acknowledge reality? What's reality? Mom asked quietly. Reality is that I've been planning and executing family gatherings for 6 years while Jessica took credit for my work. Reality is that Jessica has no idea how to coordinate events because she's never actually done it. Reality is that you gave her a cruise for my accomplishments while treating me like hired help in my own home. Megan, what do you want us to do? Dad asked. I want acknowledgement that I've been doing the work Jessica claimed credit for. I want Jessica to return the cruise reward she received for my accomplishments, and I want a public correction of the record about who actually coordinates our family celebrations. You want me to give back the cruise? Jessica asked in shock. You accepted a reward for work you didn't do. Yes, I want you to give it back. But I already took the cruise. Then you owe me the monetary equivalent, $7,000, which was the value of the vacation you received for my work. I don't have $7,000. Then you'll need to figure out how to get it, just like you'll need to figure out how to plan Easter if you want to maintain your claims about being a family event coordinator. Megan, that seems harsh, Mom started. What's harsh is watching my own family give my sister a luxury vacation for work I did while treating me like invisible support staff. What's harsh is 6 years of being taken for granted while Jessica builds her reputation on my labor. What if we just cancel Easter this year? Jessica suggested desperately. Perfect solution, I replied. We can explain to everyone that Easter is canceled because the family event coordinator who earned a cruise for her coordination skills can't figure out how to plan a dinner party. The brutal truth of the situation was finally undeniable. Jessica had built her family reputation on a complete lie, and now that lie was destroying her credibility in real time. Megan, Dad said carefully, if we acknowledge that you've been doing the coordination work all along, would you be willing to plan Easter? Only if Jessica publicly acknowledges that she didn't coordinate Christmas, returns the cruise reward to me, and agrees to stop taking credit for my work. Jessica? Mom asked. This is so embarrassing, Jessica whispered. What's embarrassing is accepting credit for work you didn't do, Aunt Carol said bluntly. What Megan is asking for is basic honesty and accountability. Fine, Jessica said finally. I'll acknowledge that Megan coordinated Christmas, and I'll figure out how to pay her back for the cruise. And you'll post a public correction on social media acknowledging that you took credit for work you didn't do. Do I have to? Jessica, you built your online reputation on my accomplishments. Yes, you have to correct the record. As the call ended with Jessica's reluctant agreement to my terms, I felt the satisfaction of someone who had finally forced the truth into the light. My family could no longer pretend that Jessica was the event coordinator while I was invisible support staff. But more importantly, Jessica would never again be able to take credit for my work without being reminded of this moment when her complete lack of capabilities was exposed in front of our entire family. Easter Sunday arrived with a level of appreciation from my family that I had never experienced before. After the devastating conference call where Jessica's complete lack of capabilities had been exposed, I had agreed to plan and host Easter. But this time, everyone knew exactly who was doing the work. The difference was remarkable. Instead of Jessica arriving empty-handed to take photos, she showed up at 6 a.m. to help with prep work, wearing an apron and ready to follow my detailed instructions. Instead of my parents giving casual thanks while crediting Jessica, they spent the morning expressing genuine gratitude for the enormous effort I put into creating family celebrations. Megan, I had no idea how much work went into these gatherings, Mom said as she watched me coordinate the timing of 6 different dishes. I'm embarrassed that we didn't recognize your efforts properly before. It's not just the cooking, I explained, showing her the detailed timeline I'd created. I start planning 2 months in advance, coordinate with everyone about dietary needs and schedules, and spend 3 days doing prep work before the event. Dad, who was helping set up the dining room according to my specifications, shook his head in amazement. Jessica, how did you think you could coordinate something this complex without any experience? Jessica, who was currently washing dishes at my direction, looked ashamed. I didn't realize how much was involved. I thought event coordination was just telling people when to show up. That's like saying surgery is just cutting people open, Aunt Carol observed. There's a reason some people are good at complex planning and others aren't. The Easter celebration itself was flawless, as always, but the dynamic was completely different. Family members who had previously taken my work for granted now made a point of acknowledging specific dishes, decorative details, and organizational elements they had never noticed before. Megan, this honey-glazed ham is incredible, Uncle Jim said. How long did you marinate it? 3 days, I replied. And I got up at 4 a.m. to start the glaze process. 4 a.m.? I had no idea you started cooking that early. I always have. You just never knew because Jessica took credit for the final results. The conversation was uncomfortable, but necessary. My family was finally seeing the scope of work that had been invisible to them for 6 years. After dinner, as I was coordinating the cleanup process with Jessica's reluctant assistance, Mom gathered everyone in the living room for what she called an important family discussion. I want to address something publicly that should have been acknowledged years ago, Mom began. Dad and I owe Megan a massive apology for failing to recognize that she has been single-handedly planning and executing our family celebrations while we gave credit to Jessica. We also owe Jessica accountability for accepting credit and rewards for work she didn't do, Dad added, looking directly at my sister. Jessica stood up with obvious reluctance. I want to apologize to everyone, especially Megan, for taking credit for work I didn't do. I never actually coordinated Christmas or any other family events. Megan did all the planning, cooking, and organizing while I just showed up and socialized. What about the cruise? Aunt Carol asked bluntly. I'm going to pay Megan back the $7,000 that the cruise cost because I received that reward for her work, not mine. How are you going to pay her back? Cousin Mark asked. I'm selling my car and taking out a personal loan. It'll take me about 6 months to pay off, but it's the right thing to do. The admission was devastating for Jessica, but it was exactly the accountability that the situation required. 2 weeks later, Jessica posted a public correction on Instagram that fulfilled her agreement from the family conference call. I need to make an important correction about my recent posts regarding family event coordination. I previously claimed credit for planning and coordinating family celebrations, including Christmas, but this was not accurate. My sister Megan has been solely responsible for planning, organizing, and executing all family gatherings for the past 6 years. I contributed nothing to the coordination of these events except my attendance. I want to publicly acknowledge Megan's incredible work and apologize for taking credit that belonged to her. The recent cruise I posted about was a reward I received for her accomplishments, not mine, and I am working to make financial restitution for accepting credit I didn't deserve. I'm grateful to have such a talented and hardworking sister, and I commit to being honest about our respective contributions going forward. The post received over 100 comments, most of them expressing shock that Jessica had been taking credit for someone else's work and admiration for my actual accomplishment. Several of Jessica's friends commented that they were disappointed and surprised by her deception. More importantly, the correction destroyed Jessica's carefully crafted social media persona as a successful family event coordinator, which had professional implications for her marketing career. 3 months later, I received the final payment from Jessica, a check for $7,000 that represented the last installment of her restitution for the cruise reward she'd received for my work. "Here's the final payment," Jessica said as she handed me the check during a family barbecue that I had once again planned and executed while everyone acknowledged my efforts. "Thank you," I said, accepting the money that should never have been taken from me in the first place. "Megan, I want you to know that I've learned a lot from this experience," Jessica continued. "I never realized how much work you put into taking care of our family. The work was never the problem, Jessica. The problem was being invisible while you took credit for my efforts. I understand that now, and I want you to know that I'm never going to take credit for something I didn't do again. Good. Because if you do, I'll document and expose it just like I did with Christmas and Easter." 6 months after Easter, my family's dynamics had fundamentally shifted. I was no longer the invisible family member who did all the work while others received credit. Instead, I was recognized as the skilled event coordinator who made family celebrations possible through extensive planning and execution. Jessica, meanwhile, had learned the consequences of taking credit for work she didn't do. Her social media reputation was damaged. She'd spent months paying restitution, and she'd lost the family status she'd built on my invisible labor. "Megan, we're so grateful for everything you do for our family," Mom said during our planning call for Thanksgiving. "Is there anything special you'd like us to do to show our appreciation this year?" "Just continue acknowledging who actually does the work," I replied. "That's all I ever wanted." "What about Jessica? Should we include her in the planning process?" "Jessica is welcome to help with specific tasks if she wants to learn actual event coordination skills, but she'll never again receive credit for work she doesn't do." 1 year after the Christmas that had broken everything, I found myself preparing for another holiday celebration, but this time as the acknowledged family event coordinator whose efforts were visible, appreciated, and properly credited. Jessica arrived early to help with prep work, following my detailed instructions and contributing actual labor instead of just social media content. My parents expressed genuine gratitude for my efforts throughout the day. Family members acknowledged specific aspects of my planning and execution that they had previously taken for granted. Most importantly, when Mom and Dad gave their traditional Christmas toast, they thanked Megan for her incredible dedication to creating beautiful family celebrations, instead of giving Jessica credit for my work. "To Megan," Dad said, raising his glass, "who has been the heart and soul of our family gatherings for 7 years, even when we failed to recognize her contributions properly. And to learning the difference between taking credit and earning credit," Aunt Carol added with a pointed look at Jessica. As I looked around the table at my family, the same people who had been invisible to my efforts just 12 months earlier, I felt the deep satisfaction of someone who had forced truth into the light through strategic planning and execution. Jessica had taught me that some people will take credit for your work if you let them, but I had taught her something more important, that taking credit for work you didn't do has consequences that extend far beyond the immediate theft. She had built her reputation on my invisible labor and received rewards meant for my accomplishments. In return, she'd lost her social media credibility, paid thousands in restitution, and learned that fraud has real consequences even within family. I had spent 6 years being invisible in my own family while Jessica took credit for my life's work. But by forcing her to prove her claimed capabilities, I had exposed the truth in a way that could never be denied or forgotten. It was perfect justice, not through revenge or vindictiveness, but through the simple requirement that people prove the abilities they claim to possess. Jessica had wanted credit for event coordination without doing the work. Instead, she had learned that credit without capability is just fraud, and fraud always has consequences.